Tonight in the program, we look at how the air pollution is deteriorating in Bangkok, how people have been affected, and what can be done to solve the problem. Then we look at the lessons learned from the oil spills in the Gulf of Thailand and how can this be prevented. And an exclusive interview with the Nepali ambassador to Thailand. Sawadee-ka, I'm Nabunag and welcome to This Week with Thai PBS World. Every year, what often comes with the cold breeze in Thailand is unfortunately the air pollution, especially with the PM 2.5 dust particles, which of course can pose a lot of health risks. And it looks like during this week, we're seeing high levels of the dust particles once again after the overall air quality in Bangkok has somewhat improved earlier this year. The air quality earlier this week has deteriorated to very unhealthy levels, especially in Bangkok and nearby provinces, particularly on Tuesday. Even the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration reported high concentrations of PM 2.5 in 10 districts of Bangkok. These areas recorded up to 70 micrograms per cubic meter, which is well above the safety level of 50. The PM 2.5 dust is the main indicator of air quality in the city. More dust means people are at risk of getting sick, as the PM 2.5 dust can pose a lot of health risks, especially to the respiratory system. On that particular day, the PM 2.5 concentration in Bangkok was recorded at 87.7 micrograms, which was 17.5 times higher than the WHO's annual air quality guideline value, which was only 5 micrograms. And according to IQAir.com, the air quality index, or AQI, for Bangkok was up to 167, and this is considered very healthy for residents. And because of this, Bangkok became one of the most polluted cities in the world. And because of this, Bangkok became one of the most polluted cities around the world, according to IQAir.com. Specifically on that day where Bangkok's air quality has deteriorated to its lowest point, Bangkok was ranked at number 6 on IQAir.com. And topping the list was Dhakal of Bangladesh, Lahore of Pakistan, as well as 3 other cities from India. But throughout the week, the air quality in Bangkok has somewhat improved, which also resulted in the better rankings as well. And if we look at the global rankings for 2020, these are the most polluted countries around the world. Topping the list are Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, Mongolia, and Afghanistan. And these are pretty much old faces because these countries have always been known for having bad air pollution, while Thailand is actually ranked at 34. But do keep in mind, though, that this is actually the average for the entire year. On top of this, there are many other cities in Thailand that have better air quality compared to Bangkok. Unfortunately, this problem is something we have to endure every year, and not much has been done despite campaigns to reduce air pollution, except for the use of artificial rainmaking and outlawing slash and burn farming practices, which unfortunately still continue in some areas. And to give you a better insight of the issue, our reporter Chalalak Janwanpen had a chance to talk to the people as to how the air pollution really affects their daily lives. And she also talked to an expert from Greenpeace Thailand as to what should be done to tackle this issue.
The drop in wind speed and the resulting slow air circulation over these past weeks have brought the dust problem back to Bangkok and its surrounding provinces, as well as some of those in the north. The tiny dust particles in PM 2.5 have not really gone away, and people in Bangkok have been voicing their feelings on its effects.
รู้สึกแบบว่าหายใจไม่ค่อยออกบางทีอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วช่วงนี้มาโรงเรียนด้วยกลับบ้านไปก็จะรู้สึกเหนื่อยมากเหมือนหายใจไม่เต็มปอดพอกลับบ้านไปก็จะเป็นหอบอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะคิดว่าฝุ่นแล้วก็มลภาวะมาจากรถเมล์เยอะมากค่ะแล้วก็
แบบเวลานั่งมอไซค์แล้วอยู่ท้ายรถเมล์อย่างเงี้ยก็ควันดำเยอะมากเลยค่ะ
มันมีฝุ่นมีอะไรเป็นบางครั้งที่คันนะเนี่ยเดี๋ยวเจาะนู่นเจาะนี่กันอีกฝุ่นก็ยิ่งมา
เจาะอะไรแม่แถวเนี้ย
นู่นนะฝั่งนั้นได้ยินป่ะเขาจับพื้นนะแล้วฝุ่นมันก็มาอย่างนี้ด้วย
แก้ปัญหาไงกันเวลาเจอฝุ่นเจอควัน
ส่วนใหญ่ก็จะเป็นแบบใส่แมส2 ชั้นอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วก็ทำได้แค่นี้ก็จริงๆ
Of course, those are measures that people adopt in order to save themselves from the dust, but they do not address the root cause of the dust or help solve the problem. Aliyah Mueanop from Greenpeace Thailand told Thai PBS World that modes of transportation and fuel burning have to be addressed in order to reduce the amount of problematic particles in the air.
วิธีการแก้ปัญหาที่ดีที่สุดเลยค่ะคือการลดที่ต้นกำเนิดเนาะเพราะว่าการที่พอมันปล่อยออกมาแล้วอะค่ะแล้วเราจะไปดูดหรือกำจัดมันในอากาศเนี่ยมันทำได้ยากแล้วก็ต้องใช้งบประมาณสูงอย่างที่เราเห็นหน่วยงานรัฐพยายามทำอยู่เช่นการฉีดน้ำเนี่ยมันก็ไม่ได้ช่วยอะไรนะคะ
Policies have been formulated to tackle air pollution, but red tape remains the major obstacle to their success. Greenpeace Thailand believes that making the problem an emergency can help bypass the bureaucratic procedures.
มีแคมเปญเรียกร้องให้หน่วยงานภาครัฐปรับค่ามาตรฐานในบรรยากาศของ PM 2.5 ก่อนเลยซึ่งเรามองว่าอันนี้คือกระดุมเม็ดแรกที่จะทำให้หน่วยงานภาครัฐเนี่ยทำงานอย่างแบบเร่งด่วนมากยิ่งขึ้นหรือว่าทำงานได้ตรงจุดมากยิ่งขึ้นนะคะ
Currently, Thailand sets an unhealthy level of PM 2.5 at over 50 micrograms per cubic meter. If the Thai standard number is lowered, it is likely that Bangkok and other affected areas will be viewed as having a more severe problem, showing the dust in the air is at hazardous levels sooner, and it will hopefully prompt the authorities to get to work. Chalalak Janwanpen, Thai PBS World.
Now that we have an overview of what is happening in Thailand with the air pollution, now let's have a look at other countries that also encounter the same problem, which are India and China. How do these countries actually tackle with the issues, and what are the measures that have been undertaken? Let's find out more in this report.
In the past few years, Thailand has faced PM 2.5 air pollution, which the government has tried to tackle through various approaches, such as aerial spraying of water, hoping to reduce the unpleasant dust. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha also introduced the idea of measuring fine particles emitted from private cars and public transport vehicles. He ordered an inspection of around 100,000 factories as well, resulting in factories being put on a watch list or suspended and being told to reduce their emissions. But how do other countries deal with PM 2.5, which affects the health of every living being that breathes to survive? Studies by the World Meteorological Organization and Global Atmosphere Watch show that some Indian and several Chinese cities recorded some of the highest improvements in PM 2.5 concentrations globally during the complete lockdown period, but not so much during the pre- or post-lockdown. The Indian government placed a strong emphasis on expanding renewable energy, promoting electric vehicles, and supplying LPG cooking fuel to millions of households to combat air pollution. Although India has made progress in battling the smog, the problem still remains. In November, schools in New Delhi had to shut down due to pollution levels that were through the roof.
See, point is, it's not this kind of solution. I mean, you can't lock down the economy on a regular basis. Prior to this, there was a lockdown because of COVID itself. Right now, they are closing the schools. So I think this is not the solution. I know the children are getting affected by the pollution, but this is not the solution. They have to take very strict actions regarding this one. So this is what I need to say about this one. I mean, policies needs to be changed, right?
China declared war on air pollution and in 2013 launched a 5-year National Air Quality Action Plan. In its second phase of the plan in 2018, China introduced its 3-year action plan for winning the Blue Sky War. The Chinese government also sees coal-fired power plants as a significant source of the pollution. The government is prohibiting the building of new coal-fired power plants and has shut down old plants in the most polluted regions, such as cities like Beijing. In November, highways and school playgrounds were closed due to heavy pollution, as China ramped up coal production and faced the scrutiny of its environmental record at a make-or-break international climate talks.
政府感觉这几年一直在很重点的在做环境的治理的工作，然后感觉这些年一直在越来越好，就好像我小的时候还有沙尘暴，现在都基本都没有再见过了。总之是感觉一年比一年好。
China has installed solar panels and wind turbines at an integrated power station in Yancheng City, Jiangsu Province, which can produce clean energy for up to 80,000 households. There is wind power generation in the upper part, photovoltaic cell utilization in the middle part, and fishing aquaculture in the lower part. Clean air and battling pollution is a race in which governments and the people must catch up. Being able to breathe clean air should not be a privilege, but a right for every living being on Earth. But in the long run, how can we achieve these goals if the problem is not taken more seriously? Stephanie Adair for Thai PBS World.
Maybe Thailand should look at China and India as an example in terms of tackling issues related to air pollution. Still on environmental issues, now let's talk about oil spill. Earlier this year, we've already seen 2 cases of oil spill in Rayong and Chumphon provinces, but 2 oil spills is just too many. But what can be done to prevent this disaster from happening again? Let's find out more with this report.
ตอนนี้เจ้าหน้าที่ได้รับการประสานจากโทรศัพท์จากบริษัท Star Petroleum Refining จำกัดมหาชนเมื่อช่วงเที่ยงคืนที่ผ่านมานี่เองนะคะว่ามีน้ำมันดิบรั่วไหล 400,000 ลิตรจากท่อใต้ทะเลของทุ่นรับน้ำมันดิบกลางทะเลบริเวณมาบตาพุธจังหวัดระยองค่ะ
The oil spill in Rayong province on January 25th occurred near the same area as those 9 years earlier. On July 27th, 2013, 50,000 liters of crude oil belonging to PTT Global Chemical leaked into the sea on the north and west sides of Samet Island. In the past 45 years, Thailand has had more than 235 oil spills at sea. Perhaps we could learn something from these repeating accidents. Thai PBS World talked to an expert marine scientist and asked whether we are good enough at minimizing the impact.
It's not something that good enough in the oil spill accident. You have to do better and better and better. In the oil, they have some heavy metal, like a mercury or something, that might affect marine life. At the moment, we can separate in 3 parts. The first is protect every accident. We call it risk management. Second, try to, if it happens, try to get rid of the oil spill. We have the experience, but I can say that we don't do good enough because we still have an oil attack to shore. And lastly is impact assessment and how to recover the marine ecosystem.
We still can't assess the damage because the impacts of the chemicals on marine life and the environment haven't yet reached their peak. Experts say it will probably take up to 3 years to estimate the oil spill's impact. As a marine scientist and sea lover who has been to many oil spills in this country, Dr. Thorn expressed his concern about these repeating but preventable accidents.
We have to improve a lot for the risk management, which cover everything. Everything, I mean, more checking, pipeline check or whatever. You have to do a lot of risk management and put a lot of money and human resources into the risk management process. Secondly, when we are talking about the get rid of the oil, we should have more equipment. We not have enough boom to lock all the oil because we don't prepare for it. So we have to prepare more boom, more vessel, more expert to do like that. We should use less chemical. If we ask that is a way to get rid of the oil slick, yes, in the world they use it, but it's the last weapon. We should. The first one is physical technique that try to protect the oil together. Don't let it spread. The main thing for the oil spill is should not let it happen. If it happens, try to protect it, not hit the shore. And if it hit the shore, do the best to estimate and try to find how can we recover the marine ecosystem, which is the hardest part.
With such environmental damages, it does not only affect the villagers as well as the marine life, but it also affects the local economy as well. And now let's have a look at the other stories in our weekly roundup.
COVID-19 patients will no longer be covered by the Universal Coverage for Emergency Patients Scheme from March 1st and will have to pay their own medical bills if they are admitted to private hospitals, according to the Public Health Ministry. COVID-19 patients will still be covered by existing healthcare schemes such as Social Security, the Gold Card Scheme, Universal Healthcare Scheme, or Civil Servants' medical benefits. The opposition Move Forward Party's draft bill on same-sex marriage was dealt a blow on Wednesday, where the House of Representatives voted to send it for vetting by the cabinet before its first reading in the House. On the same day, the progress of the opposition party's liquor bill intended to open up Thailand's liquor industry to more competition was also delayed by the House when it voted to send the bill to the cabinet for consideration in 60 days in an apparent new stalling tactic. Public Health Minister Anutin Chanvirakul has signed a ministerial announcement officially removing cannabis and hemp from Category 5 of the country's list of narcotics, effective 120 days after its publication in the Royal Gazette. Recreational use will, however, remain banned, as extracts of cannabis which contain more THC than 0.2% by weight will remain in the list. Anutin explained that growing cannabis is not prohibited under the present circumstances, but it must be done by at least 7 people grouping together in the form of community enterprise, and permission must be granted by the relevant authority.
And in this episode of The Ambassador, Hatthai Teshikit Tiranan talked to the Nepali ambassador to Thailand about his hopes of returning tourism between the two countries, as well as improving bilateral trade and investment.
When you think about Nepal, you may think about trekking through the breathtaking scenery of the Himalayas, especially Mount Everest, which is the world's highest mountain above sea level, and Annapurna. But there's much more to this country. It is the birthplace of the Lord Buddha. It has an enriching and wide variety of flora and fauna, and together with its delicious cuisine, Nepal is one of the most peaceful countries in the world. Despite its diverse ethnicities, cultures, and religions, it is no wonder tourism is a big part of Thai-Nepali relations.
Tourism is important in the sense that we have exchange of tourists between our two countries. Before COVID, from Thailand, we used to welcome more than 50,000 Thai tourists in Nepal. The number of Nepal tourists was very high before COVID. It was estimated around 60,000 a year. So we hope that after COVID situation, this trend, this exchange of visitors will resume. For bird watching paradise, we have around more than 800 species of birds in Nepal. We have 7 World Heritage Sites in capital. Nepal can cater different variety of tourism activities from religious and cultural tourism to adventure tourism. Nepal is a multicultural and multi-ethnic society. So we respect each other. Nepali people are peace-loving.
Ambassador Ganesh Prasad Dhakal has been living in Thailand with his wife and children since mid-2019.
Before coming to Thailand, I was very fond of eating Thai food. Now my another hobby is playing golf. Thai golf clubs are very popular. I feel very homely here. Whenever I go any part of Thailand, I feel homely. We are from landlocked country and we always become very happy to see the beach. And Thailand has very world famous beaches. That is one of the attractions of our people to visit Thailand.
There were about 2,500 Nepalis living in Thailand pre-COVID, half of whom were university students. The number has since dwindled to about 1,500. Thais and Nepalis have a lot of similarities, the ambassador said, especially the shared common roots in Buddhism, even though the majority of Nepalis identify as Hindus.
In terms of similarity, there are family value system, family structure, and respecting each other in the family and others, and cooperative nature, smiling, kindness. The most important thing is the teaching of Gautam Buddha and philosophy of Buddhism are the strong binding threads between the people of our two countries. As you know, Nepal is the birthplace of Gautam Buddha. The Lumbini is the birthplace. So this is the very important place, and that connects people of our two countries. And one good news to all Thai friends is that Nepal government has built one international airport near Lumbini, just 20 kilometers far from Lumbini. That is named as Gautam Buddha International Airport. And this airport is going to operate very soon. Nepal is not far from Thailand. It is just 3 hours flight from here. And before COVID, there were 3 flights per day between two capitals.
Trade and investments are other important aspects in the bilateral relations.
There are some Thai investment in Nepal, but we expect more investment because this investment in Nepal is not very much in comparison to outflow of Thai investment in other countries. So we want to minimize our trade deficit, but we want to minimize this through our export of our product, pashmina item, woolen carpets, and there are some footwears here, and tea and coffee.
Apart from representing Nepal in Thailand, His Excellency is also accredited in Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, and Vietnam. He has traveled to all those other countries except Vietnam so far for his work, amid limitations on travel brought on by the pandemic. But Mr. Dhakal is hopeful things will soon return to normal.
So far it has been managed, but we believe that this COVID will not remain long. Yeah? So after that we will travel to the accredited country.
Hathai Deshakitiranan reporting for Thai PBS World.
Now that you've explored what Nepal has in store for us, now let's come back to Bangkok because our beautiful city has a lot in store for us to explore. And in this episode of Walk-A-Tif, Kitipat Chusukjit will take you to Bangkok Design Week 2022 to explore the charms and the different sides of the capital city.
It's the time of the year when we can explore the creative scene in Bangkok. Today, Walk-A-Tif brings you to Bangkok Design Week 2022, which spreads beyond its home in Bangkok to 5 districts this year, under the theme of Co with Creation.
Organized by the Creative Economy Agency, or CEA, together with state agencies, academia, and international institutions. The festival presents ambitious ideas and new possibilities for Bangkok now and in the future. The event showcases Bangkok's charm through over 200 activities and creative works, ranging from experimental pieces to works with social and business impacts. Living with COVID-19 for 3 years, this will be an opportunity for designers to create work that represents the way we live with the pandemic.
เราก็ต้องใช้ชีวิตอยู่กับโควิดนะคะต่อไปดังนั้นเนี่ยธีมปีนี้เนี่ยเราก็เลยชวนนักสร้างสรรค์นะคะนักออกแบบมาคิดกันว่าเราจะอยู่ยังไงกับโควิดนะคะดังนั้นเนี่ยชื่อธีมก็เลยเป็นชื่อว่าโควิดครีเอชั่นนะคะคิดสร้างทางรอดนะคะดังนั้นเนี่ยเนื้อหาของงานเนี่ยค่ะก็จะเป็นลักษณะที่เกี่ยวข้องกับว่าถ้าเราต้องไปโคกับเรื่องโควิดเนี่ยในแง่ของแง่มุมต่างๆของการใช้ชีวิตการทำธุรกิจเนี่ยมันมีอะไรบ้าง
In cooperation with people in Harun and Talat Noi communities, this festival helps boost the economy and brings life back to the local inhabitants.
ช่วงมีงานก็ขายดีค่ะขายดีขึ้นเยอะเพราะว่าคนรู้สึกว่าคนในงานจะเยอะแล้วก็ปกติเนี่ยจะเก็บตั้งแต่3 โมงแต่เดี๋ยวนี้ขายถึง2 ทุ่มเพราะว่าคนเดินตลอด
ช่วงตอนนั้นนะตั้งแต่หลังปีใหม่เข้ามาเนี่ยถึงช่วงตรุษจีนเนี่ยคนเดินเนี่ยก็ค่อนข้างที่จะลดลงถ้าเทียบกับเมื่อปลายปีครับแต่พอมีช่วง Bangkok Design Week เข้ามานักท่องเที่ยวอย่างเมื่อเสาร์อาทิตย์ที่ผ่านมานะครับนักท่องเที่ยวก็ถือว่าเท่าที่เห็นนี่คือเยอะขึ้นนะครับเยอะขึ้นมากเลยนะครับก็แต่คราวนี้ก็คือเขาเรียกว่าเศรษฐกิจการค้าขายของคนตรงนี้ก็ดีขึ้น
Pranakon is one of the districts that held the exhibition under the name of Ruam Mit Mueang or Urban Ally Festival. The festival by Urban Ally tells the story of the old town in a contemporary context, especially the food and culture in Bang Lampu, the diverse settlement community which has changed since the Ratanakosin period over 200 years. One of the highlights in Bang Lampu is New World X Old Town Part 2, an exhibition by the Faculty of Architecture at Silpakorn University together with Hui Team Design and independent designers. They created installation art to tell the stories of this old district in the abandoned New World building.
อยากทำงานที่มันแอบแฝงว่าถ้าเรามีจุดกำเนิดแสง1 อันมันจะสามารถกลายเป็นภาพอะไรได้บ้างมันก็เลยเป็นจุดเริ่มต้นของไอเดียที่ชื่อว่า the reflection of the light source หลังจากจุดกำเนิดแสง1 จุดเนี่ยมันสามารถส่งออกมาเป็นพลังอะไรได้บ้างเอามาตีความเป็นงานต่างๆทีนี้เราก็พอได้ไอเดียนี้จะถูกคลี่ออกมาเป็นชิ้นงานทั้ง9 ชิ้น
At night, the dazzling projection mapping show is held at historic places in Bangkok, including the Bamrung Nukungit printing house, the first printing house in Thailand, which was built during the reign of King Rama V, and the Prasaniya Khan building, Bangkok's first post office building. Each show tells the story and depicts the historical significance of each place. Besides Charoenkung and Pranakon district, Bangkok Design Week this year is also being held across Samyan, Thong Lo Ekamai, Ari Patipat from 5th to 13th February.
I really can't tell you that what is the actual highlight of Bangkok Design Week 2022 because every exhibition in this event is so gorgeous and unique. But don't believe me, prove it by your own eyes. And see you again in the next Walk-A-Tif.
And we'll be leaving you tonight with beautiful images of this place, which is called Pa Chom Dao of Pissanulok Province. And that wraps up tonight's edition of This Week with Thai PBS World. Join us every Friday at 10:15 p.m. only on Thai PBS. And don't forget to follow us on social media, including our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. สวัสดีค่ะ